Welcome to Never Too Late for Fitness Radio, bringing baby boomers proven strategies and innovative products for getting fit, staying fit, so you can live a longer, healthier, and happier life. Here's your host, best-selling author and fitness advocate, Phil Ferris.
This is Phil Ferris, and welcome to our show. Never Too Late for Fitness Radio provides answers and straight talk about fitness, nutrition, and healthy lifestyle for people over 50. During each show, we talk to real health and fitness experts solving real problems with proven solutions you can apply in your day-to-day life. Today, we're going to be talking about total knee replacements. Now, this is a topic that I thought I'd never be interested in talking about. But earlier this year, I was experiencing some knee pain and went to an orthopedic doctor. He showed me my x-rays and that I had almost no cartilage in my left knee. And I said, if the pain level is fine now, there's no need to do anything. He said, but once the pain becomes an issue, the only way that he could help me is with a total knee replacement. So that I know I have an appointment in the future for a total knee replacement, hopefully far in the future, because I can manage and mitigate the pain issues with physical therapy and strength training. So today's guest is Richard Haynes, owner of Total Joint Fitness LLC, where he is an online personal trainer and physical therapy rehabilitation specialist. Total Joint Fitness was developed to help seniors with developing a healthier lifestyle through physical rehabilitation and physical fitness. Richard has over 20 years' experience doing physical therapy in the home health sector in Bradenton, Florida. He's also a certified personal trainer for older adults with the American Council on Exercise since June 2000. He placed fourth in the ESPN Over 50 Natural Bodybuilding Championship in Miami Beach in 2010. So, Richard, thank you very much for being here and talking to my listeners.
Well, thanks for having me, Phil. It's a pleasure to be with you in the audience today.
Great. Well, Richard, just to help our listeners fully appreciate your unique perspective and background, can you share a little bit about your journey of rehabilitation and fitness and how you chose to work with clients with total knee replacement?
Well, Phil, the story goes back to 1973, so I'll give you and the audience sort of a Reader's Digest version of this. I was involved in a serious motorcycle accident one evening, and it laid me up in the hospital for many months. Now, this is 1973, so grant you, today medicine and technology has advanced quite a bit, so today I wouldn't have spent that much time, but I had almost lost my right leg, and I had multiple surgeries on it, multiple fractures, and that was really the beginning of my fitness and physical therapy journey, because once I was able to get out of bed, and believe me, I was bedbound from February all the way till October of 1973, and then in a body cast. But once I was able to get out, I had to do my own physical rehabilitation. Where physical therapy was in 1973, I don't know, but I was a 16-year-old fella and didn't know much about physical therapy or medicine. But this is where my beginnings started in understanding medicine, and especially orthopedics. I loved bones, the skeleton after this, because I'd been around doctors so much and hearing them talk in the lingo, and I became very excited about it. And so I began to do my own physical rehabilitation. Years later, I really didn't break into the physical therapy field till 1995. I made a mid-career change and decided I was going to do what I really wanted to do. And this is how I got into physical therapy. I had that passion for medicine and fitness, and this is where I began. Then around 1995, after I graduated from physical therapy school, a couple years later, I had begun to experience severe pain in my right knee, the same leg that was injured. And you can sort of visualize this. My right leg was wearing, the body parts on that side were wearing faster than on my left. In other words, like a front tire of a car being out of alignment, and maybe the inside of that tread is going to wear. Well, when you have a knee that goes bad, it's generally that medial compartment or the inside of your knee that wears first anyway. And I had to get a total joint replacement because I was on bone. And then that's from that point on, once I went through that and did my own rehabilitation and brought my fitness back up, this is where I began to get concerned and excited about working with total joint replacements patients in the future, since I'd been through it and done it.
Now, another aspect, I guess, of the total knee replacements is the fact that and you focus on the older adults, is that the number of total knee replacements is rapidly growing in that population. Why is it growing so rapidly in the baby boomer generation?
Well, there's a couple reasons, Phil, for that. First of all, we're all aging. The country is getting older as a whole. Many of us are getting in our 60s and 70s, and the wear and tear of just living long is beginning to wear on our bodies, and especially the knees. And on top of that, we're more active. We baby boomers are more active than probably our parents and our great-grandparents or grandparents were, And so you start to develop hip knee problems quite often with this type of activity level. And then on top of that, the fact you have a larger obesity rate in this country as well. Being obese or overweight does not bode well for your knees as you age. So it's a combination of an older generation, the baby boomers, hitting the medical system all at once, and the fact that we've just gotten larger as a society. And so the knees are usually one of the first joints to go, and this is why you see this large rise. You read and hear about there's approximately 600,000 knee replacements a year. They're forecasting by maybe 2020, 2022 that there could be close to 1 million a year. So it's an ever-ending problem. But again, I believe a lot of it has to do with the society just getting older in general.
Okay, and I would also imagine that because the technology of the knee and the procedures for doing it have improved so much over the last several years that it's, I guess that the turnaround time, the time it takes to rehab becomes less because they're better at doing it. Because I remember seeing a total knee 20 years ago, and it was more like a carpenter working, breaking bones and putting things in, and it's really improved in terms of how evasive the thing is. So a lot of factors: obesity, living longer, people wanting to be more active, and then technology. All those, are increasing this demand for total knees, also total hips. But so that's a great story. So let's spend a little bit of time talking about the clients that you do work with. What are some of the biggest challenges your clients face when they're trying to come back from total knee surgery?
Well, when I go into the homes, I see them right after they leave the hospital. So when they come home, sometimes they're taken back by the amount of pain they experience when they get home. And I'll get a lot of times where they'll say, well, Richard, my knee didn't hurt this bad when I was in the hospital. Of course, they were medicated properly in the hospital. They were getting IV medications and a stronger medication. When they get home, they're usually given now an oral type of medication that's not quite as strong. And the patients, I find a lot of them are not compliant with taking the medication as needed. So this is one of the problems they have when they get home is not being compliant with pain medications because they're afraid of getting addicted, or they knew somebody that got addicted to it. And so a lot of them tend to try to get off that pain medication quickly. And then they end up suffering a lot of chronic pain and making the rehabilitation in their nights, by the way, a lot harder than it has to be. Another problem I see with a lot of patients, and no matter how many times you talk to them, patients are hearing this information, but it seems to go in one ear and out the other, and they don't realize it till they experience it themselves, is that the patient does not become patient enough, if that makes any sense. A lot of times a patient will realize or hear stories about how a knee replacement went with somebody down the street, or they get a misconception about another knee from some information that may not quite be right. And what they're expecting is a linear type of healing process taking place with a knee replacement, and that is not quite it. In other words, they think each day from day one they leave the hospital till they get home, every day is going to be a better day. There's a lot of ups and downs in those first 2 to 4 weeks after total knee replacement surgery, where you're going to have some highs and you're going to have some lows. So those are just two of the biggest problems I see right away is noncompliance with medication. And we're not pushing the medication, believe me. We're not pushing pain pills because a lot of people have an adverse effect to that. But they've got to be comfortable. A lot of them don't realize just how invasive some of this surgery was, even though, going back to your earlier comments, the technology has improved, especially with robotic surgery and this minimally invasive surgery. their body has been invaded with a foreign object. They need to take the pain medication as prescribed to make their days a little more comfortable, and then sit back and be patient. We've got this, we've read it and seen it many times, this microwave society where we want instant results, and that's not the way it's going to work with a knee replacement. So they need to be patient and let their body do its job.
Now, you mentioned the first 2 to 4 weeks as being kind of a lot of ups and downs. How long does the process normally take before someone is fully recovered with a total knee replacement? I know it will vary by person, but how long do I have to, if I'm going to have a total knee replacement, how long do I have to be patient?
Well, I tell you, first of all, if you talk to your doctor or orthopedic surgeon about it, and they may have sped up the time frame a little bit due to the newer technology, but they're going to tell you it's going to take 8 months to a year for total healing of a knee replacement. Now, that doesn't mean you won't be driving, golfing, gardening, doing whatever you like to do. But for patients, when they come home from surgery, I let them know, usually give it 6 weeks from the day that knife hits your knee, or that surgeon goes in and does that surgery, to 6 weeks out before you start stabilizing. In other words, every day begins to be about the same. You don't have these highs and lows where one day the knee is giving you trouble and the next day it's not. So it can be 5 to 6 weeks. And again, it's always patient-driven. Everybody reacts differently to this. But 6 weeks, I have found over my years working with patients in the home, is a fantastic time for that knee to really begin to level out, and each one of your days now are consistent. And you're off the pain medication by then, too, as well, unless you need it to help sleep at night. But other than that, you're generally off of it by then as well.
So once you've got through the pain part, what's the next step that a patient has to go through in the rehab?
Well, getting the big part with getting a knee replacement is getting the flexion or the bending of the knee and the extension or the straightening it. That's really what your rehab is all about in the beginning, the bending and straightening of the leg itself. Your strength levels come back fairly quickly. And a lot of people today are given even exercises now to do before surgery to prep their leg for the rehabilitation, because muscle has memory, and once it understands those exercises, it comes back quicker. So really, as far as getting the pain under control, the big process as far as rehabilitation will be bending the knee, getting that knee to bend properly and to straighten properly. We call that flexion and extension in physical therapy. Those are the two big aspects of a knee replacement rehab that you really have to focus on. And we as therapists, or you'll see some personal trainers as well down the road, focus on that as well. And maintaining the swelling, keeping that swelling at bay, because the swelling will dictate how much bend you get in that knee.
Okay. Now, I had a friend that had the total knee and didn't like doing physical therapy, didn't like working out, and so she really wasn't very compliant with her exercise. And as a result, it took her, probably an extra almost 2 years before she was fully up and around. And a lot of it was because when it was uncomfortable, she didn't do any exercises or any movement, and that tended to make it worse. Can you talk a little bit about why it's important to get, to do the physical therapy and to get movement in the knee in the physical therapy?
Well, my goodness, that's an excellent point to make, because most orthopedic surgeons, not all of them, but most of them will tell you that, hey, Phil, I did the easy part. I did the surgery. The tough part now is going to be on you and the physical therapist, the rehabilitation. The important thing to remember is after knee surgery, or any surgery in the body, but we're talking about the knee today, your body begins an inflammation process immediately. This is part of the healing process. In that process, your knee or your body also begins to lay down scar tissue. In other words, it's going to try to lay down and lock that knee up to heal it. It wants to keep movement at a minimum. Your body wants to work against you. It's trying to heal itself, but it's not interested in you moving that knee. So what we have to do as therapists, and what a patient has to understand before they have surgery, is that this physical rehabilitation will make or break them for years to come if they do not get it done in those first 6 weeks. And I give it a 6-week window, because you got to get after that knee fast, or it's going to begin to lock itself down, And once it locks itself down, then you're in trouble. The chances of us getting that knee to bend properly again are slim and sometimes none. So you've got to have a mental mindset that you're going to get in there and get that knee done, and that has to be explained to the patient before surgery. Now, a lot of times that's really not a problem because this is generally an elective surgery to begin with, so most patients know going in what they got to do. But some patients, like the young lady you spoke with earlier, they get home and they do not realize just how much pain it actually takes. And so they have to understand you got to get in there, bend that knee quickly, because if not, it's going to affect your ability to walk properly in the future.
Now, you mentioned that the mental aspect of recovery, and I know that in your practice you emphasize the mental aspect quite a bit. Why is the mental training important for your clients?
Well, I'm a big proponent of mental fitness as well as physical fitness, Phil. I mean, I can teach anybody to lift a barbell up or do an exercise, but our recovery, whether it's in physical rehabilitation after total knee surgery or whether it's building muscle or getting fitter, it all starts in our mind. In a patient, we have to learn, and fortunately can be learned, and it's a big buzzword today. You've heard the word mental toughness. People need to develop a mental toughness before going into this type of surgery or getting their body stronger, that they're going to be committed and disciplined enough to go through the trials and tribulations of the rehabilitation process day in and day out, especially on those days when they do not feel like working. You've got to get it done. And the same with our fitness. There's a lot of days we don't want to exercise or do something, but you've got to work through those. You've got to listen. You got to listen to your body and get that work done. Your mind and body work together, and the mind should be the boss. So in other words, the body doesn't control the mind controls the body. So it all starts upstairs in our self-talk. We've got to be positive. We got to be determined. We got to get it done and have a focus, a mental focus and clarity or what we're trying to do as far as getting our knee back into shape again after knee surgery or getting stronger and as far as fitness is concerned.
George, maybe just to help me and my listeners understand how you go about helping your clients achieve their goals, can you give us an example of how you work with them so that they do incorporate the mental with the physical aspect of rehabilitation?
Well, the important thing is, especially is in physical therapy, a lot of times we'll go in there and set out goals, and I find over years that some therapists won't even discuss these goals with the patient. But I like to find out what that patient's goals are, whether it's they want to get back to golfing, they want to get back to gardening, bowling, biking, whatever it might be, lifting weights like myself. And then we work towards that, and we put that picture in front of them, that mental picture in front of them, that this is what we've got to do to get to that point. And, of course, each visit that I see them, we're taking measurements. We're seeing how things are going. We're discussing the plan of care with them. And so we set out on paper, a plan of care of what they're going to do with the patient being involved. A lot of times, physical therapists will go into a home and set goals, and if I go and follow up, the patient has no idea what they're working towards. Well, that's not going to help in exercise compliance. The goal has to come from within. The motivation has to be internal. It cannot be external. You cannot be doing this because my wife wanted me to get it done or my husband or my boyfriend down the street. You've got to want to get it done. So we have to dig in deep and find out what their internal motivation is. And then I set the physical goals of what we're going to try to achieve with each exercise, what we're doing, and what this exercise will do to get them to where they want to be. And I got to make sure the patient understands the importance of what this exercise does. I'm just not going to throw you a sheet of paper and say, do this and do that. You've got to understand why you're working it and what it's doing for you and what it's doing to get you one day closer to your goal. I don't know if that answered your question or not, but this is basically that's what it is. Getting it on paper, discussing it with the patient, and then holding them accountable to getting that done. And meanwhile, they're holding me accountable to do my job as well. So it's sort of a two-way street here, holding each other accountable to get this work done and being mentally tough and sticking with the program until we get it. And most of the time we will get it if they do that.
That makes a lot of sense because when I had back surgery, and they told me that once I had the surgery, then I probably wouldn't be able to play basketball or tennis again. And I said, well, that's not going to happen. What do I got to do in order to be able to do that? And so with my physical therapist, we set out, here's what you have to be able to do. This is how much flexibility you have to be able to do. This is how far you have to run. This is all these things became objectives or hurdles for me to overcome in order to do the things that I wanted to do. And so I just kept on going through, and it was like I was going to my job. I got to accomplish these objectives today, and we would talk about what we did. And that really helped me get through it. I got, within a year, I was playing basketball and tennis again, something they said that I wouldn't be able to do. I said, great. But it took me a year of, not just the physical therapy, but then the ongoing rehabilitation that I did on my own. So that makes a lot of sense, because if I hadn't had that goal, I probably, wouldn't have done all the things I did do, which I since that surgery was 10 years ago and I'm still playing tennis and basketball, I'm grateful that I invested that time. Now, Richard, when it comes to health and fitness, there's a lot of information out there, and there's also a lot of misinformation as well. What are some of the misconceptions that people may have about recovering from total knee replacement surgery?
Well, some of them, for instance, that it's going to be quick. Some of them believe it's going to be quicker than it actually is. And again, most patients will go through a knee replacement class at the hospital before they have surgery. And a lot of this is explained to them. But again, a lot of it I find doesn't stick with some of the patient. So what they find is they don't understand, again, going back to this linear recovery that I may have mentioned, where patients think every day gets better and better. They don't understand you're going to have those ups and downs in that healing process. And that also they know how important rehabilitation is, because everybody, including their friends down the street, have told them how important rehabilitation is. But what a lot of patients think they can do, that they're from the old school of the more I do, the better I'll get, and the quicker I'll return to what I want to do. I see this down in Florida a lot, where I'll go into a home after somebody's had a knee replacement. We ask them to do the exercises twice a day. Now, sometimes we'll push 3 times a day, but that's only if they can do it without telling me or reporting down the road in a couple of days that they're experiencing a lot of chronic pain, but 2 times a day. So a lot of them will look at that and say, well, let's see, if Richard said 2 times a day, I'm going to do it 4 times a day, and I'm going to get quicker, I'm going to heal faster, and I'm going to get out on that golf course before I have to leave to go back to Ohio this winter. And I see this with a lot of my men patients. So more is not better when it comes to knee surgery. I let them know that the knee is a very temperamental joint. It will not let you know you've overdone something until you know what, that night and the next day you learn you've overdone something, because no matter how many times I explain to a patient not to overdo something, it's hard to tell what a patient can do and cannot do, because everybody's different, and patients will find out what overdoing it is. So I find that a lot of patients don't understand what overdoing it is until they've overdone it.
Okay. Now, Richard, your business is really, besides the in-home stuff, you also do online coaching to help people with rehab and fitness. Now, there are a lot of people that may not know if they can benefit from someone working with an online coach. So what are some of the, I guess, fears or uncertainties people may have about working with an online coach to continue the rehab or the fitness?
Well, online coaching or personal training is rather new. It's been around for a couple of years, maybe 3 years, I'm not sure, but it's fairly new. So especially people that need to have one-on-one training are a little fearful of online personal training or coaching. And really a lot of that is for patients that are really motivated. I'm going to the online personal training is really for patients that are really motivated and got some sort of a background on exercise to begin with. They know how to hold themselves accountable. So they're fearful when they're talking to somebody online that there's really not going to be enough hands-on teaching for them to be able to do the exercises like they should. And then for a lot of people that I talk to, online physical therapy, online personal training may not be right for them to begin with, so I don't lead them in that direction. But online coaching, as far as working with them on what to expect after joint replacement, I can give them a good idea what they can do there. Everybody can understand that and work with that because I've been through it and done it, and I've talked with and taught a lot of patients over 22 years of physical therapy what to do. So when it comes to the coaching aspect only, I have more success with that than trying to get somebody onto a personal training program. That's for a different patient altogether, really. And again, it's just the fear of not having somebody there. A lot of people need somebody there that have not exercised before to run them through the exercise and to make sure they're doing it properly. And then they're fearful they're not going to be held accountable because it depends on their record keeping, how I can help them if their records are not up to par, for instance, and accurate. So some people are fearful that that's just not going to work. And then some of them at the age group I work with, some of them aren't really computer literate, so they really want no part of online personal training. So that's those are just some of the fears of that. The coaching level, though, is through telephone or Skyping or email. I have a little more success with that.
So can you share a lesson that you've learned from your experience with working with people online that you could share for people that might be considering hiring a coach to recover from total knee replacement? What some advice you might be able to give them that would help them make a decision whether hiring you or someone like you would be a good thing for them?
Well, before somebody has surgery, it's only natural that they're going to go out and talk to everybody under the sun that they can find that's had total knee replacement surgery, for instance. And that's not hard to do. You can probably go down your street and find 3 or 4 people that have had it or people that are getting ready to have it. But what is out in the general public is so many different misconceptions, going back to misconceptions we discussed earlier about what happened, that people are getting all the good, the bad, and the ugly about a total knee replacement. You'll hear somebody that's had excellent results and somebody that almost lost their leg, or somebody I know, dear Joe down the street, he's been in a wheelchair. I'll never have that done. And so by hiring somebody like myself or other coaches that work in physical rehabilitation, we know the ins and outs of what really is going to take place with that person, almost to a T, how they're going to deal with it. We can give them straight information without getting a lot of different variables out in the street of how it's going to play out and how it's going to impact your life and increase your functional mobility later on, instead of the different stories you're going to get and all this information that is out there, whether it's fitness or about total knee replacement rehabilitation. We've been there, done it. I've taught it and worked with many patients, so I can give them the astute information they need to make an intelligent decision on that. Of course, I'm not a doctor, so I cannot diagnose or tell them what they got to do, but here's what we encourage they do as far as when what questions to ask their orthopedic surgeons, and let them know precisely what's going to take place during the physical rehabilitation process. Because when you talk to somebody that's had a knee replacement, for instance, I had mine in 1999. Well, you talk to me today about how did that go for you? I'm going to tell you it went great. And I find that the longer somebody's had surgery, the wilder the stories will get. It's almost like a fish story. The more somebody is told about the fish they caught, the bigger that fish becomes. And what some patients get confused of other patients talking to them, and not trying to mislead them on purpose, but almost convincing them they had the surgery done without anesthesia, and that they were golfing in 2 days. And so sometimes I deal with patients initially, especially after surgery, that kind of get depressed because they think they should be doing so much better because they know somebody down at the country club that said they had it done and they were golfing in 3 days, for instance. And I say golfing because I see a lot of this down in Florida with snowbirds and so forth. So hiring a coach or hiring somebody like myself, I can give you the scoop right away what you can deal with, and it's factual information. You can always discuss it with your surgeon as well, but from a therapy standpoint, I know how it should play itself out and what somebody should be doing from day to day, and get them the right information the first time instead of getting to run around and getting frustrated with different avenues of information that may be accurate and some of it may not be.
Well, that makes a lot of sense to me, Richard, because what I've found is that people need an advocate when they talk to a healthcare provider for many things. Someone that can help them to understand what questions to ask, to educate themselves enough so that they are interacting with their doctor, asking the questions they should be asking. and more doctors are expecting this to come. They want their patients to ask the questions to get them involved. At least good doctors do.
Yes.
And a lot of times you don't have the right person to do that, to help you ask the questions, prepare yourself mentally and physically for what's involved with the total knee replacement. And then after the surgery, how do you help clients with a rehabilitation as an online coach?
Well, I give them some general exercises. When I say general, I mean basic exercises, because just like fitness is concerned, there's so many wild things out there on the internet now, and you'll see some of the craziest stuff done, what people are doing to get into shape these days, and it's almost gotten to a circus type of atmosphere. But I send them some general information. Now, I email them exercises, or they can hire me as an online trainer. But I give them general exercise to get that lower body and not only stronger, that effective leg, but and the muscles surrounding that joint, but their entire body, to allow them to get back their quality of life. Because you're going to find, generally, when somebody's had a total joint replacement, whether it's a knee, hip, or shoulder, they're going to have gone a slow digression as far as their conditioning and overall strength. So I try to give them basic exercises, not to overwhelm people with 67 things to do, because that doesn't breed well for getting somebody to remain compliant. I give them a handful of exercises that I know work, that will get them strong, protect that knee joint, because the important thing after knee surgery is getting the surrounding muscles and the structure strong enough to handle that prosthesis if they're looking to get years and years and years of enjoyment out of that knee, or pain-free living out of that knee. So I submit to them exercises, then hold them accountable for what they're doing and give them some information, sort of a hybrid physical therapy / personal trainer here, and getting them back on their feet as quickly as possible, because I want that surgery for them to be as successful. Now, I know they want it to be even more successful, but I want it to be a successful experience for them. I want them to get back on their feet, and I want them to be glad that they contacted me and got the correct information to begin with.
Well, thank you. Well, Richard, if people that are listening now want to learn more about you and your work, where should they go?
Well, they can go to my website, Phil, really to get most of the information I've got, and I'll give that information to you, and you may have it on your sheet there as well. It's www.totaljointfitness.com. That Total Joint Fitness is all one word, totaljointfitness.com. I've got my website up there, and I've got all my contact information in there as well. You can also email me, which is on the website, at richard@totaljointfitness.com. And you can also join my Facebook group, which is Total Joint Fitness. And I post something up there usually daily regarding knee health, exercises, mental fitness, personal development. I can combine a lot of things under my Facebook group. Personal development, mental fitness is around with physical fitness, because my passion lies in people our age to live a high quality of life. So this is what they're going to find on my site. I'm not interested in, like myself, for instance, prolonging my life, but I want to have a good quality of life while I'm here. And this is what I want everybody to experience. I'd say life gets tough as we get older. We gain more knowledge and we gain wisdom, but sometimes the hardware we've been blessed with doesn't hold up like we'd like. So I'm trying to work with people to get stronger mentally and physically to endure the years ahead of us.
Well, that sounds like that's a great message. And Richard, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. I know that there's a lot of people out there that have had knee replacements, or like me, or anticipating having one, that really appreciate your message and have benefited from your insight. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you, Phil, for having me. Anytime.
Great. Have a wonderful day.
You too, sir.
You've been listening to Never Too Late for Fitness Radio, hosted by Phil Ferris. To learn more about the guests or resources on our show today, or to listen to past episodes, go to nevertoolateforfitness.com.